We have a question. We have a question from Joseph, and this is a doozy. What trends are you seeing in the speculative fiction market? I'm worried my main story, a light, mostly comedic portal fantasy, isn't what traditional publishing wants to see. Is that something I can convince agents to consider? This is actually two questions. The
Hmm.
second question is, am I going to be able to sell my story? And the first question is, what does the market look like? Which one do you want,
Ooh.
Maurice?
Oh goodness. I am always the worst person when it comes to judging the market because I like literally never pay any attention to it, to be honest with you. I always come from the standpoint of I'm going to write the story I feel like writing. I'm going to write the story that's on my heart right now, that's moving my pen across my page. I'm going to write that story because that's obviously the story that is in me. And then once that story is out, then I'll figure out where to sell it. And so that's always been my approach to things. And then, frankly, if I can't sell it, I will put it in the trunk and wait for a time when I can sell it, maybe later, because sometimes that market isn't ready. And so, oh, a good example of that would be my first middle grade book, Usual Suspects. I wrote that book in 2012, and it was a book about these two young black boys. They something goes wrong in their school, and the school rounds up the usual suspects, and they're like declare their name. They solve what goes on, the mystery of what's going on, right? But that was 2012, and I'm like, and I wrote the book, and the book was on my heart. And then I look at the marketplace, and the marketplace is like, oh yeah, there's no room for a middle grade book that features two black protagonists, two black boy protagonists at that. There's no market for that. So I put it in the trunk, go off and write another book, my next book. So I write the next book, pop my head back up, and at this point I have my agent by my side, and we look around at the marketplace now, and this is just 4 years later. And 4 years later, it's the we need diverse books movement has happened. So now the marketplace has now had a radical shift, and suddenly there's a vacuum of people searching for books like the one I just wrote. So then it's like, wait, hey, can we go out with this book? She's like, yeah, hand me that book, and it sold within 2 weeks.
Wow.
But so for in 2012, it was dead on arrival. 2016, it's like, hey, can you go ahead and why don't you start writing the sequel while you're at it? So I tend to never look at the marketplace first when it comes to what it is that I want to write.
Well, and because books take so long, chasing the marketplace means you're always behind the curve.
Right.
Always. The only trend I'm seeing right now is all of my writers' friends going, what even is happening? That is the trend I am seeing
Right.
right now. Like, there's a lot of shifting going on in the commercial marketplace. And it just, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah. Apocalyptic novels might be tough to sell at the moment.
Yeah, people are, yeah, right now people want hope.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the one of the lessons that I've kept from my corporate marketing background 30 years ago is that um, there are three principal drivers to any market. Driver number one is the one that we all want to be as writers, and that is the innovator brings something new and suddenly no one can live without it. And that is a market driver. That is, for lack of a better example off the top of my head, that is Harry Potter. Harry Potter arrived and changed the landscape because suddenly everybody had to have Harry Potter.
Hmm.
Brandon Sanderson's Alcatraz novels exist because Brandon's publisher said, "Can you give us a Harry Potter?"
Hmm.
And uh, I mean, Brandon's in a position now where he doesn't have to listen to anybody asking him for that. He's going to write
Right.
what he wants to write, and that's fine. Um, but that brings us to the second driver of the market, and that is the big money. Copycat's the wrong word, but the big money also rans. The folks who say, "Oh my gosh, Harry Potter is huge. We have R&D budget. Let's go find a thing that is like this. Let's chase the market in this way. Um, and that is also a huge influence. And the final influence on the market, and I kind of wish it was bigger, is, and this, Maurice, I think is where your 2012 novel reached 2016, is the actual zeitgeist of the consumer, where
Right.
suddenly the consumers sit up and say, "Oh my gosh, the ice caps just melted." I don't want books about what if the ice caps melt. I want books about where do we put the new beach? That kind of a, oh, it's a terrible pun, but it's the right turn of phrase. That kind of a sea change that affects the whole market. Look, I'm a bad person, and I'm why bad things happen to other people. We've established that.
Right. And somehow you're
Um,
still my friend.
so coming back to Joseph's question, um, what trends are we seeing? If you're trying to write to the trend and you are not a big money, you're not a publisher chasing the trend, and you're not plugged into a publisher who is looking for that thing, then by the time you write whatever it is that writes to the trend, you're probably too late. Um, are you smart enough? And I say smart enough. What I really mean is brilliant enough as a writer. Are you a skilled enough creator of the arts to make a thing that actually creates its own trend? I have no idea. But I know that that kind of thing can literally come from anybody.
Yeah.
So if you're passionate about the story you're writing and you feel like there aren't any stories out there like it, then write it, because that might be the thing that an agent or an editor looks at and says, wow, this is like nothing else. And yet it has these connection points to the audience that I know exists. I know how to sell this. And
Yeah.
that's sort of the best case scenario for you.
Yeah.
I will say, on the chasing trends thing, which we've kind of landed on, probably don't. There are some indie writers who write very, very, very quickly. So quickly, I'm not sure how they're doing it. And if you are the kind of person who can churn out a book every 2 to 3 months, then different advice applies.
And
You know,
self-pub it and have it
yeah,
arrive
and self-publish. Yeah,
market
if you
in that
can
time.
go from idea to on the virtual shelf inside of 3 months, well, then the chasing trends things is different for you. And I do know of writers who write that fast. It baffles me, but that changes the picture. Your capacity changes the picture always. Your skill changes.
Well,
Yep.
and I look at my most recent trilogy. So I got the Astra Black trilogy, and it was pitched as Black Panther meets The Expanse.
Yeah.
Shockingly, this would be in the wake of when Black Panther hit.
Yeah.
But Black Panther hit in what, 20, oh, daggone, 18?
I think so.
20,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So then the first book in this series doesn't come out till like 2020, 2021, something like that.
Right.
That's when book one hits, so you can already see that already we have that lag time, because I can sell the book based off of that. Then you got to spot me a year or two to write the book. Then the book comes out. So already we're now in the mid to post, Afrofuturism boom at this point.
Right.
And I still got two more books, in that series. Book two just came out last November. I just turned in the rough draft of book three, but now we're talking, 7 years past
Right.
that I've been living in this universe. Right.
Yeah, no, and that's a real risk with commercial publishing, because the zeitgeist that sold the book, when the marketing department is having to do things, are they going to be as excited? Is the zeitgeist past?
Right. Though I will still cash that check.
Absolutely.
Will
Cash
not
every
lie.
check. Cash every check.
That reminds me of our friend Bob reported this to me. Bob was a Writers of the Future winner decades ago, and I can't remember who said this, but he's speaking to the Writers of the Future group, says, look, your first million words are practice. If someone is willing to pay you for some of your first million words, go ahead and practice cashing checks.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
love that. I love that line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if the thing sells,
It worked. Yay. All right.